The vast emptiness of space lit up with a brilliant flash as the Crystalline Collective's scout ship emerged from hyperspace. The vessel, shaped like a perfect diamond with smooth, transparent surfaces, reflected the distant starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Inside, hundreds of crystalline beings communicated through pure light and vibration, their thoughts bouncing through their shared neural network. Ambassador Crystal Singer stood at the observation deck, their faceted body casting rainbow patterns across the floor. The being's attention focused on the blue-green planet floating in the distance. Earth, the third planet from an ordinary yellow star, had caught the collective's interest after their long-range sensors detected unusual radio signals coming from its surface. Most fascinating, Crystal Singer transmitted to their crew. These organic creatures have managed to achieve basic radio technology despite their primitive nature. The ambassador's thoughts rippled through the ship's crystal matrix, sharing their observations with all crew members simultaneously. The ship's sensors began their deep scan of Earth, collecting data about its inhabitants. They watched cities buzzing with activity, orbital satellites circling the planet, and early space stations being constructed in low orbit. Crystal Singer noted everything with a mix of amusement and contempt. "Look at them," they'd broadcast to their crew. "Such fragile beings. Their bodies are mostly water, their lives so short. How they've managed to achieve even this level of technology is beyond my understanding." The crew shared vibrations of agreement, their crystalline forms humming in harmony. The scout ship moved closer, staying just outside Earth's detection range. They observed humans going about their daily lives, building structures, traveling in vehicles, and communicating through their primitive devices. The collective's advanced sensors captured everything, building a comprehensive database of human behavior and technology. Crystal Singer filed their first report to the collective's high command. Planet Earth, inhabited by organic species designated humans. Technology level: early space age. Military capability: minimal. Threat assessment: negligible. Recommendation: proceed with resource extraction plans. The ambassador was particularly interested in Earth's asteroid belt. Rich in minerals and metals, it would make a perfect mining operation for the collective. The fact that it belonged to Earth's solar system was, in their view, irrelevant. After all, what could these primitive humans do to stop them? "Begin preparations for Phase 2, Crystal Singer ordered. "We'll establish our mining bases in their asteroid belt. If they notice us at all, they'll be too afraid to respond. These organics are clearly too primitive to pose any real threat to our superior civilization." As the scout ship prepared to return to the fleet, none of the crystalline beings noticed a small anomaly in their sensor readings. A human deep space probe had detected their energy signature, and even now, the information was being transmitted back to Earth's defense networks. The Crystalline Collective had made their first crucial mistake. They had judged humanity by their technology alone, failing to notice the warning signs that would soon become apparent. Their arrogance would prove costly, but for now, they remained blissfully unaware of the storm they were about to provoke. Crystal Singer made one final transmission before jumping to hyperspace. "Mark this system for immediate exploitation. These humans will make excellent subjects for our expansion." The diamond-shaped vessel disappeared in another flash of light, leaving behind only a faint energy signature and a humanity that was far more aware than they realized. 3 months after their initial survey, the Crystalline Collective's mining fleet arrived in the asteroid belt. 5 massive ships, each shaped like geometric pyramids, began setting up their extraction equipment. Their crystalline surfaces sparkled against the backdrop of space as they worked, completely ignorant of the attention they were drawing. In their arrogance, they hadn't bothered to hide their operations. Why should they? These primitive humans couldn't possibly have the technology to detect them this far out in their own solar system. Crystal Singer, now commanding the operation from the largest ship, watched with satisfaction as the first mining beams cut into a mineral-rich asteroid. Progress report: Crystal Singer transmitted through the fleet's shared consciousness. Mining Operation Earthbelt 1 is proceeding as planned. No sign of the local organics noticing our presence. But they were wrong. Very wrong. Deep in the basement of Earth's Space Defense Command, red lights flashed across monitoring screens. General Roberts stood before a large display, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights. The room buzzed with activity as analysts and technicians worked at their stations. "Show me the data again," he ordered, his voice calm despite the situation. A young technician pulled up multiple sensor readings on the main screen. The images clearly showed 5 massive ships cutting apart asteroids in Earth's mining territory. "They're not even trying to hide," the technician said, shaking his head. "It's like they don't think we can see them." General Roberts nodded slowly. "Or they don't care if we do. Prepare the diplomatic vessel. Let's give them a chance to explain themselves." Back in the asteroid belt, Crystal Singer's peaceful mining operation was interrupted by an unexpected alert. A small Earth ship was approaching their position. The vessel was clearly marked with international symbols of peace and diplomatic intent. "How unexpected," Crystal Singer transmitted to their crew, amusement rippling through their crystalline form. "It seems the primitives have noticed us after all. How did they even get a ship out here?" The human vessel, the UES Harmony, came to a stop at a respectful distance from the mining fleet. A transmission crackled across space. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Miller of the United Earth Ship Harmony. You are currently conducting unauthorized mining operations in Earth-controlled space. We request immediate dialogue to discuss your presence and intentions." The crystalline beings shared waves of laughter through their network. The very idea that these organics thought they had any right to make demands was entertaining. Crystal Singer decided to respond, if only to amuse themselves. "Organic beings," they transmitted back, their message deliberately condescending. "Your permission is not required. This system's resources are now under collective control. Return to your wet planet, and be grateful we don't take more." Captain Miller's voice came back, steady and warning. "We must inform you that Earth does not recognize your claim. We request you cease operations immediately and enter diplomatic discussions, or we will be forced to take defensive measures." Crystal Singer's form pulsed with cruel amusement. Perhaps it was time to show these primitives their place. They sent a simple command through the fleet's network. "Destroy their vessel. Make it quick, but make sure they see it coming. Let's teach them about their place in the galaxy." The humans had made their final attempt at peace. They didn't know it yet, but the collective had just made the biggest mistake in their species' history. The destruction of the UES Harmony took less than 30 seconds. The crystalline collective's energy beam sliced through the diplomatic vessel like a hot knife through butter, splitting it cleanly in two. The explosion that followed lit up the asteroid belt like a small sun, scattering debris across the void of space. Crystal Singer watched with cold satisfaction as the last traces of the human ship faded into space. "Let this be a lesson," they transmitted to their fleet. "Organic beings must learn their place in the universe." The mining ships returned to their work, their crystalline crews sharing feelings of superiority through their network. None of them paid attention to the small data burst that the Harmony had managed to transmit just before its destruction. Back on Earth, the Space Defense Command Center fell into dead silence as they watched their diplomatic vessel disappear from their screens. General Roberts stood perfectly still, his fists clenched at his sides. The room's tension could be cut with a knife. They didn't even warn them. A young operator whispered, breaking the silence. "They just killed them. 23 people, just gone." General Roberts finally moved, turning to face his staff. His voice was quiet but carried across the entire room. "Get me the Security Council. Now." Within an hour, the United Earth Security Council gathered in their underground chamber. Representatives from every major nation sat around the circular table, their faces grim as they watched the replay of the Harmony's destruction. "They've made their position clear," the American representative said, her voice hard. "They see us as insects to be crushed. The Chinese representative nodded slowly. Then perhaps it's time we show them why Earth's insects should not be provoked. For the first time in human history, the Security Council vote was unanimous. Project Achilles, a defensive weapons system that had been developed in secret for just such an occasion, was activated. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Crystal Singer received reports of unusual electromagnetic activity from Earth. Their sensors detected massive power buildups across the planet's surface, but they dismissed these as primitive attempts at posturing. Let them waste their energy, Crystal Singer transmitted to their crew. What can organic beings possibly do to our superior crystalline technology? A junior analyst tried to raise concerns about unusual patterns in Earth's power grid, but Crystal Singer shut down the discussion. Focus on the mining operation. These humans have seen what happens when they challenge us. They will cower in fear now. The collected ships continued their work, their crews sharing confident vibrations through their network. They had no way of knowing that their greatest advantage, their crystalline nature, was about to become their greatest weakness. In launch facilities across Earth, engineers made final adjustments to weapons that had been designed specifically for this type of encounter. The humans hadn't been as primitive or as unprepared as the collective assumed. General Roberts stood in the command center, watching the final preparations. "Send the order," he said quietly. "Show them why you should never corner a species that has spent its entire history learning to fight back." The first wave of Earth's response was already on its way, and the crystalline collective was about to learn a harsh lesson about human ingenuity. For 3 days, an eerie silence filled the space between Earth and the asteroid belt. The crystalline collective continued their mining operations, their massive ships breaking apart asteroids with practiced efficiency. The lack of response from Earth only reinforced their belief in human weakness. Crystal Singer floated in their command chamber, their crystalline form reflecting the light from nearby stars. "See how quickly they learned their place," they transmitted to their crew. "These organics understand now that resistance is." A junior sensor operator suddenly interrupted with an urgent transmission. "Commander, massive energy signatures detected launching from Earth's surface." Crystal Singer's form flickered with annoyance at the interruption. "Probably just their primitive missiles. Our shields can handle anything these." They stopped mid-transmission as their sensor displays lit up with hundreds, then thousands of small objects leaving Earth's atmosphere. In the Space Defense Command Center, General Roberts watched the launches with grim satisfaction. "First wave deployment successful," an operator reported. "All units showing green status." The general nodded, remembering all the years of preparation that had led to this moment. Humans had long theorized about crystalline-based life forms, and they had prepared accordingly. Each of the launch devices was a simple yet devastating weapon, a focused electromagnetic pulse generator specifically tuned to disrupt crystalline neural patterns. Back in the asteroid belt, Crystal Singer watched the approaching swarm with growing concern. "Analyze those objects," they commanded. Their crew worked quickly, their crystalline minds processing the data. "They appear to be some kind of primitive projectile weapons," a senior analyst reported. "No explosive signatures detected. Minimal kinetic potential. They pose no threat to our hull integrity." Crystal Singer relaxed, their form stabilizing. Let them waste their resources. Maintain mining operations. But something felt wrong. The objects weren't moving like normal missiles. They were spreading out, creating a complex three-dimensional grid around the collective's fleet. Crystal Singer was about to order a more detailed scan when the first wave activated. The effect was instantaneous. A carefully calculated electromagnetic pulse washed over the closest mining ship. The crystalline crew screamed in silent agony as their neural networks experienced interference for the first time in their existence. It was like 1,000 discordant sounds all at once, disrupting their very thoughts. What is happening?" Crystal Singer struggled to maintain coherent thought as the pulses reached their ship. Throughout the fleet, crystalline beings found their consciousness-sharing network filling with static and chaos. In the command center on Earth, Officers watched their sensors as the first wave took effect. EMP grid deployment successful, an operator announced. Crystalline neural pattern disruption confirmed across all targets. General Roberts allowed himself a small smile. Begin Phase 2. As the collected ships drifted in disarray, their crews struggling to maintain basic functions, a second wave of launches began from Earth. These weapons were different, designed not to destroy, but to shatter the very foundation of crystalline technology. Crystal Singer, their thoughts fragmented by the electromagnetic assault, managed one final clear transmission to their fleet. We may have made a terrible mistake. The humans had waited silently for 3 days not out of fear, but because they needed time to prepare their response. The crystalline collective was about to learn why patience should never be mistaken for weakness. The second wave of Earth's attack arrived while the crystalline fleet was still reeling from the electromagnetic assault. These new weapons were different, sleek, cylindrical devices that positioned themselves carefully around each mining ship. Crystal Singer, their thoughts still fragmented, watched through distorted sensors as the devices activated. The effect was devastating. Each device began emitting precise sonic frequencies, creating overlapping waves that resonated through the crystalline ships. It was a simple principle, one that human children learned in basic science class. Every crystal had a natural frequency that could shatter it if struck just right. Impossible, Crystal Singer tried to transmit, but their neural network was too disrupted for clear communication. They watched in horror as tiny cracks began appearing in their ship's walls. Inside the mining vessels, the crystalline crew experienced something they had never known before. Fear. Their bodies, once perfectly ordered structures of light and geometry, began developing microscopic fractures. The humans hadn't just found a way to attack their technology. They had found a way to attack their very nature. On Earth, General Roberts received the latest battlefield update. Sonic resonators operating at 97% efficiency, reported the weapons officer. Structural integrity of enemy vessels is failing. The general studied the tactical display. Show me their neural network status. A new image appeared, showing the chaos in the collective's communication system. What was once a perfect lattice of thought and light had become a scrambled mess of random signals. The electromagnetic pulses had turned their greatest strength, their shared consciousness, into a weakness. Back in space, Crystal Singer made a desperate attempt to rally their fleet. Retreat. We must. But before they could finish the thought, a new wave of sonic pulses hit. The cracks in their ship's hull grew larger, spreading like spider webs across the once perfect crystalline surface. One of the smaller mining ships suddenly went dark, its crew's consciousness shattered by the combined assault of electromagnetic and sonic weapons. The mighty vessel, once a testament to crystalline superiority, now drifted lifelessly through space. How? Crystal Singer managed to broadcast to what remained of their crew. How did they know exactly how to hurt us? The answer came from their own database. Humans had been studying crystals for centuries. They understood resonant frequencies, light propagation, and electromagnetic effects on crystalline structures. All that knowledge, which the collective had dismissed as primitive science, had been turned into perfect weapons against them. In the Space Defense Command Center, General Roberts watched as another mining ship went dark. They thought we were primitive because we're made of flesh and blood, he said quietly. They never considered that this meant we had to become experts at understanding materials different from ourselves. The remaining mining ships tried to activate their engines to escape the deadly field of human weapons. But it was too late. The combination of electromagnetic disruption and sonic assault had damaged their propulsion systems beyond repair. Crystal Singer, their once perfect form now riddled with cracks, realized the terrible truth. They had judged humanity by their organic nature and deemed them inferior. Now that same primitive species had turned the collective's crystalline perfection into a fatal flaw. The remaining crystalline ships hung in space like wounded animals, their once perfect surfaces now covered in spreading cracks. But Crystal Singer refused to accept defeat. Through their damaged neural network, they managed to send a final command. Activate the emergency protocols. Hidden compartments in each ship opened, releasing thousands of smaller crystalline drones. These simple machines, controlled by basic programming rather than the disrupted neural network, spread out toward Earth. If the collective couldn't win through superiority, they would win through sheer numbers. In the Space Defense Command Center, alarms blared as new threats appeared on the monitoring screens. Multiple hostile targets detected. An operator announced, "Estimate 10,000 crystal drones approaching Earth orbit." General Roberts studied the tactical display, his expression calm. "They're desperate now," he said, "and desperate enemies are the most dangerous. Activate the pulse cannons." Earth's orbital defense platforms, hidden until now, powered up. These massive installations had been disguised as communication satellites and space debris, waiting for just such a moment. As the crystal drones approached, the platforms released rapid-fire electromagnetic pulses. Hundreds of drones shattered instantly, their simple programming no match for the focused energy bursts. But thousands more kept coming, their sheer numbers threatening to overwhelm Earth's defenses. "Sir," a young technician called out, "I'm detecting a pattern in their movement. They're using basic swarm programming, like insects." General Roberts smiled. "Like insects, you say?" He turned to his communications officer. "Get me Dr. White at the Acoustic Research Lab." Within minutes, Earth's defense platforms began broadcasting a new type of signal, a complex pattern of sonic pulses that mimicked the way bees communicate in their hives. The crystal drones, programmed to operate like a swarm, became confused by the conflicting signals. Thousands of drones crashed into each other, their simple programming unable to handle the contradictory commands. Others flew in random patterns, their coordination completely disrupted by Earth's acoustic interference. Crystal Singer watched in disbelief as their last desperate attack fell apart. How do they keep adapting? They transmitted weakly through their fractured form. "Every time we change tactics." Back on Earth, Dr. White explained to General Roberts, "We've spent centuries studying swarm behavior in insects. We just had to apply that knowledge to their drone programming." Simple, really. The remaining crystal drones, those that hadn't been destroyed or sent off course, began retreating back to their damaged motherships. Earth's defense platforms continued their relentless assault, picking off stragglers with precise electromagnetic pulses. In the command center, General Roberts received a new report. "Sir, we're detecting power fluctuations in the remaining enemy ships. Their cores are becoming unstable. They pushed their systems too hard," the general noted. "Their desperation is going to tear them apart from the inside." Crystal Singer felt their ship trembling around them as the power core began to fail. In their last moments of clarity, they finally understood. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to understand, adapt, and turn any enemy's strength into a weakness. As their ships fell apart around them, the crystalline collective received an unexpected transmission from Earth. Instead of demands for surrender or threats of destruction, it contained scientific data, detailed information about crystal formation, resonant frequencies, and electromagnetic field theories. Crystal Singer, their form barely holding together, studied the transmission with their remaining functional sensors. What they saw changed everything they thought they knew about humans. These theories, they transmitted weekly to their surviving crew. Some of them are centuries old. They've understood our basic nature since before they even reached space. In the Space Defense Command Center, General Roberts watched the collective's reactions through advanced sensors. "Send them the second data packet," he ordered. This time, the transmission contained humanity's complete history of crystal research, from basic geology to quantum crystal computing. The collective saw centuries of human scientists studying, understanding, and mastering the properties of crystalline structures. One of Crystal Singer's analysts managed to send a clear thought. They weren't primitive at all. They were preparing. Every discovery about crystals, every experiment, it was all leading to this moment. The revelation spread through what remained of the collective's neural network. Humans hadn't just gotten lucky with their weapons. They had spent generations laying the groundwork for this confrontation, methodically studying everything about crystalline structures while appearing to merely satisfy their scientific curiosity. On Earth, Dr. White explained to the Security Council every geology student's first lesson about crystal formation, every child's science fair project growing crystals in their kitchen, every research paper about crystal properties. We built our understanding piece by piece, never knowing when we might need it. The remaining collective ships hung in space, their once perfect forms now scared and fractured. Crystal Singer made one final transmission to Earth. We understand now. You weren't primitive. You were patient. General Roberts received the transmission and nodded slowly. That's right. We studied. We learned. We prepared. Not because we knew about you specifically, but because that's what humans do. We try to understand everything around us, even things that seem different or strange. A junior officer looked up from his console. Sir, we're detecting power fluctuations in their communication systems. I think they're trying to send us something. Through the damaged neural network came the collective's last coherent message. We came here believing we were superior because of our crystalline nature. We thought our technology was perfect. Our form evolved beyond organic life. But you knew us better than we knew ourselves. Every weakness, every vulnerability, you had already discovered them all through simple scientific curiosity. The message ended with something unexpected, a request, not for mercy, but for understanding. The collective asked humans to share what else they had learned about crystalline life, hoping to understand themselves as thoroughly as humanity already did. In the command center, General Roberts smiled slightly. Send them our response. We'll help them rebuild, but first, they need to understand one simple truth. Never underestimate a species that makes a habit of studying everything they encounter, even if they don't know why they might need that knowledge someday. 3 weeks after the battle, Earth's orbital repair stations housed the damaged ships of the crystalline collective. Human engineers worked alongside crystalline beings, their different natures now a source of cooperation rather than conflict. Crystal Singer, their form partially restored thanks to human crystal growing technology, watched in amazement as a human engineer demonstrated a new method for repairing crystalline neural networks using Earth's advanced sonic harmonics. We never imagined, Crystal Singer transmitted, their thoughts now clear and stable, that the same technologies you used to defeat us could be used to heal us. The human engineer smiled as she adjusted her equipment. That's the thing about knowledge, she explained. It's neither good nor bad on its own. What matters is how you choose to use it. In the main conference room of the United Earth Government building, representatives from both species sat together, discussing the future. The walls displayed holographic images of joint mining operations, with humans and crystalline beings working side by side in the asteroid belt. Your mining techniques are inefficient, a crystalline engineer pointed out, not unkindly. We can show you better ways. The human mining director nodded. And we can show you how to avoid disturbing the natural habitats of space-dwelling organisms that live in the asteroids, something we discovered during our early mining attempts. News of the unusual partnership spread throughout the galaxy. Other species watched in disbelief as their two greatest fears, the primitive but dangerous humans and the arrogant but powerful crystalline collective, began working together. In the Space Defense Command Center, now partially staffed by crystalline operators, General Roberts met with Crystal Singer to discuss security arrangements for their joint operations. There's one thing I still don't understand, Crystal Singer transmitted. After we destroyed your diplomatic vessel, you could have easily destroyed us completely. Why didn't you? The general looked out the window at Earth, bright and blue below them. Because the true measure of a species isn't their ability to destroy, but their wisdom in knowing when not to. We didn't want to destroy you. We wanted to teach you. A young crystalline analyst interrupted their conversation with an urgent message. Other crystalline species had taken notice of Earth's defensive capabilities. But instead of preparing for war, they were sending requests for diplomatic contact and cultural exchange. "They're afraid of us now," Crystal Singer noted with a touch of sadness. General Roberts shook his head. "No, they're not afraid. They're curious, just like we were about you. And that curiosity might just lead to more partnerships, more understanding." The collective's remaining ships, now repaired and upgraded with joint human crystalline technology, prepared to return home. But they would not leave alone. Human scientists and engineers had been invited to visit the collective's homeworld, to share knowledge and build bridges between their civilizations. As Crystal Singer prepared to depart, they transmitted one final message to Earth. "We came here believing we were superior and left realizing we had found equals. Perhaps that is the greatest discovery of all." 5 years after the historic confrontation between humans and the crystalline collective, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The story of their battle and subsequent alliance had spread to every corner of known space, becoming a cautionary tale that spawned a new galactic law. The Human Protocol. In the Grand Meeting Hall of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 different species gathered to witness the official signing of this new protocol. The massive chamber sparkled with an unusual sight: crystalline beings floating alongside organic creatures, each respecting the other's nature and strengths. Crystal Singer, now serving as the chief ambassador of the collective, addressed the assembly. "5 years ago, we made the mistake of judging humans by their organic nature. We called them primitive. We thought them weak. We were wrong." General Roberts, now Earth's primary diplomatic representative, stood next to his crystalline friend. The elderly general looked out at the diverse gathering and smiled. "And we could have destroyed a potentially valuable ally because they attacked us first. But we chose understanding over vengeance." The Human Protocol, displayed on huge screens throughout the chamber, was simple yet profound. Before engaging in conflict with any species, remember Earth. A species' true strength lies not in their technology, but in their ability to understand, adapt, and turn knowledge into power. Peaceful contact is always the wisest first choice. In Earth's asteroid belt, the results of this new partnership were clear. Joint human crystalline mining operations had developed new technologies that benefited both species. Humans had learned to grow specialized crystals for space construction, while the collective had adopted human methods of environmental preservation. "Look there," a young crystalline miner transmitted to their human colleague, pointing at a newly constructed space station. The station was a perfect blend of human and crystalline architecture, organic curves flowing into crystalline angles, each complementing the other. In research centers across Earth, human scientists worked alongside crystalline experts, exploring new frontiers in technology and science. The collective's neural network technology had been adapted to help humans communicate across vast distances, while human acoustic research had led to revolutionary advances in crystalline medicine. At the Space Defense Command Center, now an international facility, a wall displayed the names of the UES Harmony's crew, the diplomatic vessel destroyed in the initial conflict. Below the names was a new inscription: "Their sacrifice led not to war, but to understanding." They were the last casualties of ignorance between our species. As the protocol signing ceremony concluded, Crystal Singer made one final transmission to the assembled delegates: "Let our story be a lesson to all. The humans could have destroyed us, but they chose to understand us instead. They turned our attack into an opportunity for growth. That is true strength." General Roberts added his own words: "And let it be known throughout the galaxy, humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our endless desire to learn, to understand, and to turn potential enemies into friends. But never mistake this preference for peace as weakness. As the collective learned, humans are not to be provoked." The chamber erupted in agreement, crystal beings pulsing with light, while organic species applauded. A new era of galactic cooperation had begun, all because one species had chosen to study crystals long before they knew they would need that knowledge.